This is a Rattle and Hum Sports podcast for Monday, June the 10th, the year 2013. I'm Bryan Houston, and we are happy to be talking Texas Rangers baseball right now with Rattle and Hum Sports contributor Dic Humphrey. How you doing, Dic?
Well, I'm suffering from the heat today. We definitely got close to 100 here in Dallas today.
The blast furnace is just about on for good now, isn't it?
It looks like it could be here for a while.
Well, I guess that's a good thing when it's time to talk baseball. The Rangers are back home after a 2-4 road trip. It was a long, painful week on a number of subjects. They lost first baseman Mitch Moreland to a pulled hamstring, Alexi Ogando to shoulder inflammation, and reliever Michael Kirkman with lymphoma. The list of injuries just keeps growing and growing, doesn't it?
It is really amazing. The Rangers actually started 4 rookies in yesterday's game, and that's the first time they've done that since 2009.
That's really hard to believe, and that just shows you how deep these injuries are cutting into the lineup that they started the season with. The question, I guess, let's start with Moreland first of all. What impact does it have that he's not in the lineup?
Oh, well, there's no question he's a big impact. I mean, you look at the 4 best offensive players so far this year have been Moreland and Kinsler and Cruz and Adrian Beltre. And the first 2 are on the disabled list. And I think Kinsler's probably more important as the sort of the linchpin at the top of the batting order. But Moreland's been a really big contributor this year, and he's missed. They're both missed.
And then let's touch on the problems with Alexi Ogando, who was out for 30 days, pitched 1 game, and then had to go back on the DL with shoulder inflammation. How concerned do we need to be about him long term?
Well, I think the concern is whether or not he can really withstand the rigors of being a starter. And this may be a nudge to ultimately getting back in the bullpen. I certainly like what I've seen of this guy as a starter. I forget how many starts he is. It's around 10 that he's made. And he's got an ERA under 3. So certainly a sizable sample. And he's been effective, but if he's not out there, he's not helping the Rangers, and maybe he could be of more use to him in the bullpen.
And when you talk about, again, losing another starter that was part of the rotation when the season began, once again you're back to Yu Darvish, Derek Holland, and then whoever happens to be handy right now. That's a major blow to this bullpen and to this pitching staff. No
question. You look to when the season began, the expectation was that Colby Lewis would be back and in the starting rotation before the end of May. So if you count him, you're really looking at 60% of your starting rotation parked on the disabled list with Ogando and Harrison. Josh Lindblom is up, and he made the 1-spot start earlier this year against Oakland. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. He had appeared in more than 100 Major League games as a reliever, and the Rangers really converted him into a starter this year. But at AAA Round Rock, he was leading the Pacific Coast League with a 6-0 record and leading in earned run average. So perhaps he'll give the Rangers a good performance tonight.
And if all that wasn't enough, then you lose Michael Kirkman, who's not pitched well this year, but he's gone with lymphoma now. This is a recurrence of a condition he's already had. The cynic in me, Dic, if it had been anything other than a cancer DL excuse, would have said that the Rangers were looking for a reason to put him on the DL to kind of get him out of the bullpen for the time being and see if they could get him off to the side someplace and get him right. I know that's not the case when you're talking about lymphoma, but he really was struggling when he went down on the DL.
Well, there's no question that he was, and he's out of options. So to run him, they would have had to have run him through waivers to get him to to AAA, and it's not likely that a left-handed pitcher that throws in the 90s would go would clear waivers. So they were probably looking at losing him if they tried to get him through waivers.
There are a lot of fans, I look at a lot of message boards right now, who would be just fine with seeing him go away. What's your thought on that, and what are the Rangers thinking in terms of Michael Kirkman? Because Lord knows he's got worlds of potential, but it just hasn't translated onto the mound.
Well, he certainly has had stretches when he's pitched well. He's been on the Rangers postseason roster, I think, in each of the last 3 years, and he certainly gained some experience as a reliever. He originally came up as a starter, and it hasn't happened yet. But I think one thing Ranger fans should know by now with these young pitchers that the Rangers have been developing, is that the timetable doesn't always just go real fast. Sometimes it takes a while. I mean, whatever people are thinking about Kirkman now, they certainly had those thoughts about Derek Holland, and Holland finally seems to have turned it around.
What's your thinking?
So hopefully it can happen to Kirkman too.
Yeah, what's your thinking about Kirkman? Is he the kind of guy that the Rangers need to be patient with, or is he just a body that they may just have to cut bait on at some point?
Well, they may have to cut bait at some point in time. They're certainly bringing along a lot of other guys, and just on the sheer numbers. And he's certainly disappointing. There's no doubt about it. But they're putting so much emphasis on character guys, and he is a really good character guy. And I know that they're pulling for him, and they believe he's certainly better than the 8.18 ERA that he's currently has.
All right, we know the Rangers purchased the contract of right-handed pitcher Kyle McClellan to replace Kirkman. What do you know about him?
Very little, really. He's sort of a journeyman. He's appeared in the major leagues before. He was one of those spring training invites, kind of for depth, and sure enough, the depth is now needed. So he's up, and Ranger fans will get to see what he can do.
Well, how would you grade the Rangers over this past weekend? It was not a great showing against the Toronto Blue Jays, and this overall road trip, 2 losses. They were in walk-off fashion. They finished 2-4. Where do you see this team right now?
Well, they're back home, and they always seem to do well at home. Their home record is the best in the American League and second best to the Braves in the majors. So at least they salvaged a win yesterday. That would have been really difficult. Would have been a 4-game losing streak for the first time this year. And it's always nice to finish up on a good note, fly home feeling a little bit better about things. That 4-run deficit that they overcame is the biggest comeback of the year so far. So, and they haven't done it on the road for something like 5 years. So it was certainly a good win to finish up with. Interestingly, Neil Cox was the winning pitcher in both the wins last week on the road, and he's certainly been a big help to this bullpen. But they're back home, and I think they're gonna hit the ball better. They always seem to hit the ball better when they come home, and that was really the bigger problem. I mean, to lose in 18 innings like they did, I think they were 1 for 19 in that game, with runners in scoring position. They had lots of opportunities to win that game, and it was really the offense that was the problem on that road trip.
They really did struggle driving in runners in scoring position. At one point, they were 1 for 19. They really are having a problem as far as bringing runs across the plate. And then you lose guys like Moreland, and it makes you wonder about how big a factor Ian Kinsler is in that lineup. As we talk about him, I saw where he was hitting off a tee Saturday, and so it looks like he's still at least 10 days away from returning. But how big a difference would he make right now?
Oh, I think he's the most important missing piece right now. Up at the top of the lineup, and he gets on base. He's got the power. He can often give you a home run early in a game, and he gets you on the scoreboard quick. And when he's on base, he runs the bases well. So I think he's really an important cog here. And you're right. I mean, they don't seem to have a good time frame. He's been out now since I think it was around May the 16th, 17th when he went on the disabled list, and maybe May 18th. So he's been out 3 weeks, and 10 days that you just mentioned is the most optimistic time frame I've heard. And it could well be around July 1 before he gets back.
Wow, that is a long time. But that also delays the dilemma what you do with Jurickson Profar, who has been one of the guys that actually does drive in runs in scoring position. If Kinsler comes back, I mean, right now with the Rangers having such a difficult time driving runs in clutch situations, it would seem like you'd have to find a way to keep Profar in the lineup even if Kinsler was back.
Well, he didn't hit very well on the road trip either, and I think he dropped something like 40 points on his batting average in the last 4 or 5 days. So certainly he's got so few at-bats that can fluctuate wildly. He could have 3 good games against Cleveland this weekend, or this to start the week, and have it right back. But you have to wonder if he's going to be able to maintain the pace. But he's an exciting player that the fans are really in love with and want to see more of. And with Kinsler's injury, the fans are going to get the opportunity.
they are getting what they want right now, no question about that. The thing that gets lost in the 18-inning loss on Saturday was the really nice performance that Ross Wolf had in relief with 6 2/3 innings, giving up the unearned run. Unfortunately, it was on his error, and it cost him the ball game. But that has to get Rangers management looking at him as a possible spot starter, don't you think?
No question. He made the one start against Oakland a couple weeks ago when he first got called up, and has been able to stay on the roster in the bullpen since then. But I noticed Mike Maddox just jumped out of that dugout when that game was over and came out to see him and met him as he was walking to the dugout. He didn't shake hands. He hugged him. So it was a really impressive performance to pitch 6 2/3 innings and to really be 1 out away. And like I said, the Rangers had plenty of opportunities in there to score and could have won that game. That's the longest outing by a reliever since 2007. So really impressive.
Well, and think about the number of pitchers that they would have burned up in a game like that had he not pitched that kind of performance.
Oh, no question. I think Toronto used 9, and the Rangers were held to 4, no more than 5. And they just wish they could have gotten that lead earlier and used one more, Mr. Nathan, to go pitch a save, but that didn't happen. But yeah, it was really an impressive performance.
Okay, so now we get into the home schedule. They've got, I believe it's an 11-game home trip now, and it starts with the Cleveland Indians and then the Blue Jays, and then later on they're dealing with the Oakland A's, and that's going to be a huge series. Let's talk about the Indians first of all. That's a tough enough ball club coming in here for the 3 games coming up.
Well, the Rangers may have caught them at the right time. A couple weeks ago, they were neck and neck with the Tigers for the Central Division lead, and they've now lost 7 in a row and fallen below 500. So hopefully the Rangers can make it into a 10-game losing streak to start the week. But one interesting statistic about the Indians is that Elvis Andrus has had a hit in every game he's ever played against the Indians. That number is now 32.
Wow.
And that's certainly the Ranger club record about a hitting streak against one team. The old record was Juan Rodriguez had hit 27 straight, but that's an amazing record, and since 1945 that ranks 7th. Well, actually, there's 3 guys with 32, but so it really ranks 5th, the 5th longest of hitting streaks by a player against one team. So
that's really impressive.
Yeah, something to keep the eye on. And Elvis, he has been somewhat slumping, so maybe the Indian pitching is what he needs. But he still has 16 stolen bases, which is 3rd in the league, which it's not bad.
No, it's not. Something that we haven't talked about, and that's obviously the charge by Major League Baseball now to try to suspend a lot of these baseball players who were part of the Miami clinic, and Nelson Cruz is in that group. Any new word on any possibility that he might be going down anytime soon, or what do you know about this?
I've just seen probably the same reports you have. The one report that MLB apparently has a lot of information, documentation, but they really needed some testimony to back it up to make it to feasible to go after these players. Obviously, from the MLB standpoint, they're still bristling over what happened with Ryan Braun a couple years ago when he was obviously guilty and got off on a technicality, and he's probably the big fish in this. Of course, Alex Rodriguez is too, but this guy Bosch that ran the Genesis Wellness Clinic, he kind of looks like a scumbag himself. The reports are that he tried to shake down Alex Rodriguez for a lot of money, and it was only after he was rebuffed in that effort that he turned to Major League Baseball to give them the evidence they want. And he's in a lot of trouble himself. It is an interesting situation. Normally, in the drug law enforcement, people use the legal system uses users to get to the distributors, and Major League Baseball is just doing the exact opposite. They're going to the distributor to get to the users.
Well, they sure seem very intent on making sure that these guys pay a high price this time around. So we're talking, 50 to 100 ball games, and the word I hear is that a lot of the players who want the game to be clean think that even 100 games isn't enough after what Cabrera served and still ended up getting a big payday out of it. What do you think is an appropriate suspension if all of these guys are guilty of using PEDs?
Well, and Cabrera, by the way, is Melky Cabrera that you're talking about. He's a second-time offender, and he's implicated in this, so he could be looking at a huge penalty if this gets prosecuted. But I don't know. I have a question. I assume the PEDs that they're talking about are pretty much the human growth hormone, and that's something that your body makes naturally, and it really retards the aging process when people take that. And I'm not sure how much it really enhances your performance, other than giving you a little more longevity. But I think they've done you look at the home run totals now compared to where they were even 5 years ago, and obviously the drug program is working, and it is getting the steroids out of the game. And I don't know that they need to make any adjustments to it, really.
Okay, fair enough. One other thing that happened over the weekend I found very interesting. Pudge Rodriguez is going to be inducted into the Rangers Hall of Fame, and there's no question that he ought to be there. I've got a couple of follow-up questions after I get your reaction to that, but the other thing that was interesting was that Juan Gonzalez turned down an opportunity to be inducted into the Rangers Hall of Fame. Why do you think that was?
I have no idea. Juan was a player that when he was here, I kind of got to know a little bit better than most of the players I've gotten to know, and I really like Juan. I was extremely disappointed when this story came out, and I can't imagine what's going on in his life to make him feel that way. Obviously, he must have some anger about the way his career ended with Texas, but this is a sad, just a sad story for Juan, and a sad story for the Rangers and their fans too. He won 2 MVPs. He got us to the playoffs for the first time ever, and he was an integral part of those 3 teams that went to the playoffs in the late '90s, and it's just it's just a really sad story. I mean, I knew Juan, and he's a good guy. He's really a nice person, and I'm really disappointed to hear this story.
And at the same time, Pudge Rodriguez goes in, and again, that's a no-brainer. I saw the question the other day, and you've covered the Rangers since almost day one. If you were going to name the greatest Texas Ranger, who would it be?
Well, I thought about that, but it would probably be Ivan Rodriguez. When you look at the position that he played, I mean, it's a very taxing position, a very demanding position, and he's got to be one of the 2 or 3 best ever. People rave about his arm, which is unbelievable, but his footwork to where he could get those throws off so quickly was just as remarkable as his arm strength. And of course, he was a great hitter, and he won an MVP award too. So he was just, I think he's the greatest Texas Ranger.
Well, I don't think you'd find many people that would argue with that, and it's great to see that he is embracing that and has become a part of the organization, and definitely still remains very connected to the Rangers, because he was one of the most beloved Rangers that I could ever recall. No question about that. Well, Dick, what's coming up on Rattle and Hum Sports?
Well, we'll have some recap of the draft as they get some of these players signed. They signed, I guess, they announced 10 of them today, one of which, the most interesting player that I found on that list was Joe Jackson. He's a catcher that played at the Citadel. Okay. And he really is a distant relative of the real Joe Jackson.
Shoeless Joe Jackson, huh?
So he's in the fold. But I did see a list today of the Rangers' top 10 prospects now after the draft. And Travis Demeritte was the shortstop that was taken in one of the first 3 picks, and Alex Gonzalez was the pitcher taken with the first pick. And those 2 are in the top 10 now, at least by one rating system. So pretty good to be have a deep farm system like the Rangers already have, and to be drafting at the tail end of the draft and still get 2 players last week of the draft that fit into your top 10 prospects already.
And with the idea that they may need to add a pitcher and possibly a bat, that deep farm system is going to come in real handy, I think.
No question. No question. There's certainly a lot of holes. I mean, this league was 7 games once upon a time, and the Rangers actually fell out of first for 2 days over the weekend before climbing back over Oakland by half a game yesterday. But it's going to be a dogfight. Oakland's not going away. They are a very good team. They have very good pitching. They are for real. And the Rangers definitely have their work cut out for them winning this division.
Well, Dick, thank you very much. Again, great coverage of the Texas Rangers, and we'll look forward to talking to you next time.
Okay, well, thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Dic Humphrey covering the Texas Rangers for Rattle and Hum Sports. I'm Bryan Houston. This is a Rattle and Hum Sports podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.